Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kirkland Hall, and I greet you in the name of Jesus. Today, this is my summary of chapter 16, the book of Isaiah. So, chapter 16 brings us to the book of the 8th century prophet Isaiah. And we know that this is one of the most complex books in the Old Testament. Collins begins by giving us a brief description of the book of Isaiah, where it says that the beginning is introduced as the vision of Isaiah, son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. He states that only a small part of the book can be attributed to the actual 8th century prophet. And what I found really cool was that he also said that he shows that chapter 40 through 66 relates to the Babylonian exile and after. So he also calls that the second Isaiah because there was no evidence that that writer actually spoke in Isaiah's name. Then he goes to show us that chapter 55 through 66 is the third Isaiah. And then after that, within the last century, theologians have stated that chapter 1 through 39 is the first Isaiah, which actually Collins also states that cannot actually be attributed all to Isaiah either. So it was really cool because the beginning, we know, and this is preached all throughout history, chapter 6 is usually the most taught to describe the calling of the prophet. Now, it does not technically start chronologically at the beginning, but that's where it was placed because the entire book is actually not tightly structured, as Collins states. Chapters are linked by the theme or the subject matter. And Collins first looks at Isaiah's vision. This is what he looks at. And he compares chapter 6 and the vision of Micaiah ben Imlan in 1 Kings chapter 22. Collins states that while they both claim to have seen the Lord, other prophets experience an auditory call by hearing only. I thought that was pretty significant because when I do look at the other callings in the Bible, such as New Testament Paul on the road to Damascus, that was actually just an auditory call because actually he was blinded. I've never looked at that, but that was a pretty interesting statement. The chapter also goes to show that while Isaiah has seen Yahweh of hosts, he also compares it to Micaiah, who has seen the host of heaven. And the seraphims are burning ones which represent the host in attendance. I found that really interesting. So he goes on, and really the main characteristics of Isaiah's preaching throughout the entire chapter is condemnation of human pride and the demand for humility before the majesty of God. He preaches about the majesty of God, the glory of the Lord. He states that this is the day of the Lord. That was his saying. Then he also finishes up with the invasion of Sennacherib, which is actually two interventions on Isaiah's behalf. So the first one, Hezekiah sends delegates to Isaiah to ask him to intercede. And then the second one, the second intervention, Isaiah's own initiative in chapter 37, verse 21 through 35. There are three parts. There's the taught song, the profession of the contempt of Zion, and her good for the invader. So Collins really just summarizes Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, and this is my response. Actually, Collins' summary is actually written like Isaiah. It's not really structured chronologically, but he breaks it up by theme. And that was a really interesting read. I would love to dig deeper. I won't go any further on the video, but I would love to go to state that that's actually what I'm going to write on because the study opened my mind up to some new visions throughout Isaiah. For example, like I stated earlier, the call was he saw the Lord